Hello, dear friends. We were told that things would get bad before it was over, and it's not over yet. The crisis has to hit bottom before it can rebound, and it hasn't hit bottom yet. It will happen, but it has to happen when the time is right, not before and not after. It could be this year, sooner rather than later. Opinion piece. Solidarity. Helping is a privilege. Service to others is evolution. It manifests itself in difficult times. It is the result of a spiritual growth. We learn by making mistakes. Things would get worse before they get better. There is a commodity black swan. No timeline can be provided. Diplomatic solution expected in Ukraine. Spain will buy cereals from Argentina because of the crisis. Let's start. These virtues are needed more than ever in difficult times such as the world is experiencing today. It's not a matter of, in quotes, undressing one saint to clothe other, as the popular saying goes, but to achieve a harmonious and balanced development. Empathy, fraternity, solidarity, generosity, altruism, kindness, compassion are words that designate the innate tendency of the humankind to help others as a natural result of a spiritual evolution. Solidarity is the support for a cause or the interest of others, especially when going through difficult experiences. Empathy is the capacity to identify with someone and share their feelings. Compassion is the feeling of tenderness and identification with someone's ills. Kind means affable, obliging, and affectionate. Generosity is the habit of giving or sharing with others. In times of natural disasters, relief efforts are often provided by human beings or groups who act unilaterally in their giving of time, resources, goods, shelter, etc. Altruism is the tendency to procure good in a disinterested manner. Altruistic economics assumes that human beings are maximizers, but it breaks with the assumption that their welfare would be independent of that of others. Service to others. Arcturian Council 9d. Being of service to others becomes a natural result of a spiritual evolution. You cannot help but help others, and it becomes a driving force in your life once you evolve to a certain point. Even Yeshua had to evolve his consciousness when he was on earth and became a better teacher as he grew spiritually. The same was true for Buddha and everyone else you have heard about and read about. Look at where you are right now as a gift, because where you have heard about and read about. Because where you are spiritually is what gives you the opportunity to grow and become who you really are above all else. Buffon said, "We were told things would get bad before it was over, and it's not yet over. But the failure of governments makes people more distrustful every day because corruption has hit everywhere. Debts are skyrocketing and jobs are dubious. No politician knows how to handle it. No news anchor, no writer. Everyone has bits and pieces, and altogether it says chaos is flourishing. Chaos is order in motion. Out of all that an opening for new input and new impulses will emerge. You can see it emerging yet, but we assure you again that all is not lost. It will happen, but it has to happen when the time is up and the rows are cornered. If we could provide a timeline, we would. Obviously, we cannot. We are watching this long web of conspiracy come together in a kind of knot, and the scales of justice will prevail. Just hang in there and do what you can, but stay sane and out of reaction mode. The event. It will be like a frequency explosion by aurora ray. Life on Earth is about to undergo a major transformation, and humankind will move into a higher dimensional reality. This shift will occur through a series of frequency pulses that we are currently experiencing. These pulses are of such a high frequency that they affect the fabric of reality and create openings in it. The best chance to survive and thrive in this ascension process is to raise your own frequency and create Merkaba fields around your body. The event, as we call it, will be beyond what your most fantastic imagination can comprehend. There is much joy in this, which could not even be expressed in words. It is like a welcoming party for the planet, the universe, and all of creation. As to whether you will ascend or not, that is up to you to decide, but it all depends on your frequency. You will all experience that incredible feeling of being one with everything, being nowhere, and being everywhere at the same time, having all the answers at your fingertips. This shift in consciousness is happening now because many are trying to awaken themselves to the extraordinary shift in Earth's consciousness. Listen to your inner voice, Santa Gabriel by Archangel Gabriel. All that you have learned and all that has happened to you has brought you to where you are now. Be grateful. You are on this earth plane to learn. Making mistakes is a way for humankind to learn lessons. It is impossible to do things right and perfectly every time. The Divine Presence does not expect this of you. What is necessary is that you follow your heart and your inner guidance. There is much wisdom within you, but it is often like a small voice calling in the wilderness, drowned out by critical thoughts. However, what will serve you most in your life is to listen to this still voice. This voice tells you that you are a child of a loving Creator and that there is nothing you can do that can stop the flow of infinite love. There is also the voice of a society that demands that you live up to certain expectations. When you are aligned with your higher self, there is a flow of love-filled energy that allows you to step into a way of being that is fully connected to the divine power within and around you. This energy is inviting you to be, rather than do. You are being asked to shed the restrictive armor of society's expectations and your critical mind that has been conditioned by it. You are asked to look at yourself with compassion and notice the many things you are learning at this time. It is a powerful time on earth when, although there is a great suffering and fear, there is also incredible opportunities to break through into great love and peace. Breaking news. First, hopes for a diplomatic solution to the war in Ukraine. Second, Russia intensifies its attacks near Kiev as negotiations continue. Third, US denies involvement in Ukraine's development of biological weapons. Fourth, French presidential candidate Marine Le Pen said that Western arms supplies to Kiev are on the verge of involvement in a conflict. Economics. First, the war in Ukraine affects the economic recovery after 2 years of crisis. Second, oil falls more than 5% on hopes for talks between Russia and Ukraine. Third, Russia has blocked half of its gold and foreign exchange reserves due to sanctions, and the Russian stock exchange remains closed. Fourth, Russia has funds to service its debt. The Russian finance minister assured that the country has sufficient funds to continue servicing its debt despite attempts to provoke an artificial default. 5. Chinese shares listed in Hong Kong had their worst day since the 2008 crisis. 6. The conflict between Russia and Ukraine is beginning to generate ripples in the world economy that could lead to a new monetary system. 7th, central banks design policies for war-torn economies. They must decide how to deal with high inflation, the risks of a recession, and the effect of the war on the financial system. 8. For several years, financial experts have been warning the world about the coming inflation, which would probably lead to a hyperinflation based on unlimited money printing. 9. The dynamite of the crisis and the global commodity deficit leads to an already catastrophic debt and currency conflagration. 10th, 5 companies representing the BRICS nations sign a pact to extract gold. 11. Since commodity inflation is guaranteed, it is obvious that physical gold and a little silver would be a lifeline against the coming destructions of the asset bubble and derivatives such as stocks, bonds, and real estate. 12. After 2008, the Fed cut interest rates to zero and started printing money, but it does not work. 13th, the Goldman Sachs Commodity Index has risen 3 times since April 2020. 14. FAO reports of 43% increase in food prices since 2020. 15th, on February 26, 2022, Trump said, "Look what happens after the Olympics." On Sunday, March 13th, the Beijing Paralympics have ended. 16. UK shoppers have been warned that their debit card could be declined. Supply crisis. First, the war in Ukraine is wrecking the world food system. Second, Spain plans to lift restrictions to allow arrival of Argentine grain. Third, demonstration against the IMF in Argentina. Parties and movements in Argentina demonstrated outside the Legislative Palace in rejection of the agreement with the International Monetary Fund, which is to be approved by the Chamber of Deputies. Excuse me. Fourth, many European countries depend on Russian gas for more than 50% of their total consumption. 5. The world market for cereals, vegetable oil, and fertilizers was already very tense before the war. 6. What is happening now is a black swan of commodities for both energy and agricultural resources. 7. Last November, the World Food Programme warned of a food shortage for several hundred million people. 8. Energy and agricultural commodities are interconnected. Gas is the raw material for fertilizer production in Europe. Russia and Belarus account for 1/3 of the world's potash fertilizer exports. 9. Russia and Ukraine account for 33% of world barley exports, 30% of wheat, 20% of corn, and 80% of sunflower oil. 10. Russian goods indispensable for the West. There are a number of goods in Russian exports that the West cannot do without. Refusing to import them could have negative consequences. Economists point out, in particular, a possible restriction or ban on the export of fertilizers could unbalance not only the European food market, but also the world market, leading to shortages and higher prices for products. 11. On Sunday, March 13th, a state of emergency was declared in parts of Florida following tornadoes and damaging winds. 12. Iraq's Prime Minister calls not to turn the country into a stage for settling foreign scores after the missile attack from Iran. Washington, for its part, supports the full sovereignty, independence and territorial integrity of Iraq. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.